I think that Tucker frequently traffics in precisely this sort of conspiratorial thinking. Again, I don't pull my punches on this stuff. I mean, when I think that people are engaged in a belief system that leads to the idea that the policymakers are not, in fact, the policymakers. There's a shadowy cadre of people behind the policymakers who are the ones who are actually pulling the strings. And no matter what you do, you cannot extirpate them politically. There are no methods of stopping them. And no matter how much you do, how much you are an activist or how much you speak, they're trying to silence you. They're trying to harm you.
We are still trying to wrap our brains around Tucker Carlson. How did he go 180? What's happened to him? And why has he gone from right to left? What happened to the center? Well, let's listen to Mr. Ben Shapiro, who has some ideas to help us understand of where Tucker Carlson is at. Kindly subscribe to our channel so a little bit of light to push away a lot of darkness, and we'll discuss it after we watch this together.
Tucker was fired from Fox News. He went to X, and he had a very, very large platform on X, and obviously his show is very widely listened to.
Yes.
He has a very large audience. Tucker's a super talented guy. I also think that he has, taken a bunch of views that I think would more traditionally be labeled on the left on virtually every issue that I can think of, and has spent very little time actually identifying with views of the right, which has been kind of fascinating. This past week, obviously, he decided not just to have on the white supremacist and radical open Hitler supporter, Nick Fuentes. He decided to essentially gloss Nick Fuentes and treat him with kid gloves and popularize him, which is, I think, something that Tucker frequently does. I called him an ideological launderer. Tucker is a very good prosecutorial attorney when he decides to be, and he makes very clear when he is treating somebody with kid gloves, and pretending that is not happening is honestly intellectually dishonest at best. And so I pointed this out, especially because the head of the Heritage Foundation then came out and essentially contended two things. One, that there are no circumstances under which the Heritage Foundation would cease its relationship with Tucker, none, which to me is a shocking statement coming from the head of a think tank. Traditionally, think tanks are about ideas. If the idea is that you are now against the ideas of a think tank, well, now I don't understand precisely why you should maintain connections with people who are promoting ideas antithetical to that think tank. And then he suggested that the only people who are attacking Tucker Carlson were, I believe that the word he used was a venomous coalition of people subject to a foreign power, which is some rather, I would say, unsubtle coded language. I called this out on the show on Monday because I think this has been a long time in coming. I think that Tucker frequently traffics in precisely this sort of conspiratorial thinking. Again, I don't pull my punches on this stuff. I mean, when I think that people are engaged in a belief system that leads to the idea that the policymakers are not, in fact, the policymakers. There's a shadowy cadre of people behind the policymakers who are the ones who are actually pulling the strings. And no matter what you do, you cannot extirpate them politically. There are no methods of stopping them. And no matter how much you do, how much you are an activist or how much you speak, they're trying to silence you. They're trying to harm you. This sort of language is indeed a permission structure for violence. And that's just the reality.
And the reality is that when you are given a platform such as Tucker Carlson, who really could use this platform to either promote unity, promote understanding, or create divisiveness. So Tucker Carlson, he began as a news reporter and then went on his own road. But he too was given at birth the gift of free will. And we all need to understand that and appreciate it. The choices that we make in life are our choices, and we own it. When Tucker Carlson was supporting Israel, Bibi Netanyahu, and the Jewish people, he was empathetic towards the attack that happened on October 7th. He appreciated and understood the devastation, the heinous crimes, the barbarism that occurred on October 7th. And there's plenty of footage of him talking about it. And then somehow, midway, he totally twisted things around 180. And you wonder, why would a person do that? What's the motivation? Well, we can all speculate. Tucker is a conspiracy person. We can have our own conspiracies of why did he choose to turn against Mr. Netanyahu, against Israel, and against the way Israel has been prosecuting the war. And, to criticize a country from afar is really ridiculous and absurd. Your boots are not on the ground. You were not there on October 7. The bits and pieces of news that you are gathering from the propaganda that has been spewed out by the fake news, by the blood libels of Hamas, and that's what you're basing your assertions on. When one needs to really realize and recognize, there's a famous old saying, you don't judge a person until you are in their shoes. What Israel has faced with on October 7 was an existential threat to their existence. It wasn't a war to capture real estate. It was a war to annihilate the Jewish people in Israel. It was a war to destroy Israel. And that's what Israel faced with. And ask yourself the question, any other country in the free world, if you were attacked the way Israel was, how would have you responded? We need not look far back in history. We have seen how America responded to 9/11. We have seen other countries, how they responded to their aggressors. Why is Israel held to a different level whatsoever, that it's not allowed to respond to its aggressors, it's not allowed to secure its borders and get rid of its terrorists? Well, that is exactly what Israel is forced to do. Israel could have ended the war on October 8. They could have done exactly what Britain has done to Dresden and Berlin. We could have done exactly what America has done to Japan to end a war. That's how you end a war, unconditional surrender. How do you get unconditional surrender? Is with strength. Peace through strength. And Israel could have done that on October 8th, but it chose not to. It chose to take the high moral road, only to get criticized every single day, every single step of the way. People don't realize what kind of a war Israel was executing. It was literally the hardest type of warfare that any country has ever faced, a guerrilla warfare where the enemy dressed up like civilians only to be able to create as many civilian deaths as possible, using the children as human shields and then calling Israel baby killers. Well, talking about baby killers, talking about genocide, what happened on October 7? Have we forgotten already that picture of Mrs. Bibas holding her two redhead beautiful children? The anguish in her face, the way Hamas abducted her and took her as hostage and only to kill her and to physically choke those little beautiful redhead children. Have we forgotten that? That is the enemy that Israel has been up against. You talk about child killers. Just look at the footage, if you could get it. The way they bound a group of children together and set them on fire on October 7. And they live streamed it. We didn't need to go through all the gory, most horrific, barbaric crimes that Hamas has done unto Israel. And what did they expect Israel not to respond? Israel responded, but it responded in a way that it sees to prevent as much civilian casualties as possible, because Israel values life and cherishes life. We are obsessed with the living and not the death. Hamas is a death cult. Tucker Carlson, do you want to really side with Hamas? Are you going to ignore what Israel has been through? Are you going to ignore what Israel has done for the last 77 years, have contributed to the world? Are you going to ignore the wars that Israel had to fight to defend itself? Why Israel Defense Force is called a defense force? Tell me one time in history that Israel has targeted civilians. I will show you at every single war, every single suicide bomber attack on Israel was specifically against civilians. Even prior to October 7th, throughout the intifadas, even before the intifadas, when the Shapiro pizza shop was blown up in the streets of Jerusalem, killing innocent civilians, when buses were blown up, when cars were rammed into bus stops, random sniper shootings on innocent civilians, and recently when a mother was heading to a hospital to give birth only to shoot and kill her and her unborn baby. These are the type of enemies we're dealing with. Tucker, really? Is that who you're going to side with in history? The good news is that every person has a road to redemption. You have gone astray. You could always come back home. The fame that you are seeking, the notoriety you are seeking, you could find it in a positive way, being unifying, being uplifting, being complimentary, and being truthful and honest. That will bring you the fame that perhaps you are looking. You are not going to get it from the dark side. You'll get it from the side of light. God bless you all. God loves you.